What's up, Lila? How you doing? Little housekeeping. Thank you so much, Luke. I appreciate the follow. Jayzan. Appreciate the follow as well. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That was about half a month ago, so thank you guys. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Pretty awesome. Just got home from work. Nice. Okay. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. Love that. Hopefully your job's still treating you well. I love that. Hope you're doing well. What's up, guys? What's up? What's up? What's up? Just doing a little housekeeping here. Holiday season's been kind of busy, but love it. Love that. How have you been? I've been all right. No complaints. No complaints. We do have this right here to work on. So, let's see. Window. Yep. So, I don't know if this can be totally seen, but basically what it says is this is the project we're working on, and it is due tomorrow. So, I'm going to be working on this a lot here tonight. Yeah. I'm a good chunk through, I'd say. Yo, thank you so much, Lila. Thank you so much for the 25 cheers. Thank you, Lila, for the 25 cheers. Thank you for the 25 bits. I appreciate that, Lila. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's awesome. I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Oh, sorry. Ooh, sorry about that. I just want to hop in and say, hey, so I'll see you soon. Yeah, thank you so much, Lila. I appreciate that. I appreciate you popping in, showing some love, sharing some cheers, sharing some good news. I hope the holiday season keeps you uh, busy enough to where it's entertaining, but not so busy that you're swamped. So I appreciate you, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much, Lila, for popping in, showing some love. Yo, hello, hello. What's up, guys? How you doing? How you doing? Yeah, so we're working on this today, and just gonna be just gonna be focused on this for the most part. But this is kind of where we're at with it. I'd say recording wise, we're a good way into chapter two. I think that we were about halfway ish through. And then looking through what needs to be done here, it looks like. So we got 5 chapters. I'd say a good amount through chapter two, enough to where I probably could have gone through, but my voice was kind of giving up a little bit earlier on. But I'm gonna go ahead and push through that last bit there, and then see how much longer we can record today. So let's see, where were we? Where were we with this? Where were we? Okay. I think I have a pretty good idea. Let's see, Wealth Almanac. Search. agree to. There we go. Okay. All right, I have a pretty good understanding. We're here, and we need to. Okay, I think I should probably just keep going with it. Usually, I would restart a section, if I'm coming back to it, just so it's not too different. But this section, I think that there's only a few more paragraphs left, so I'm gonna just go ahead and keep going with this. Here we go. How is that possible? How is that possible? How is that possible? Most of the joint ventures formed with China. Most of the joint ventures formed with China fail because foreign partners fail to understand this basic tenet. Okay. Yo. What's up, Words and Words? Welcome in. Nice glasses. Thank you. I appreciate that. Little red light. They only let red light in, so they essentially block blue light. How are you doing? I'm doing pretty well. No complaints. We're on a deadline for this, so I'll show you what's going on. But we have this project that we're working on, the Wealth Almanac, and it is actually due tomorrow. And we're just a little bit less than halfway done with it. So I want to make sure I can come in and work some magic on it, and hopefully either complete this tonight or get a substantial chunk done tonight, and then finalize it tomorrow. Yeah. So we can meet our obligations. Got to meet our obligations. But I'm doing well. I hope you're doing well. How are you today? You always finish what you start. Absolutely. Definitely got to finish what you start. So it'll be a good set. It will be a very productive session. I'll tell you what, it'll be a very, very productive session. I hope you're doing well. How's the holiday season for you? I want to make sure my voice is up to par. Up to Parliament. I am. Thanks. Everything's well, fortunately. Good to know you're well, too. Love that. I love that. Words, welcome in. I appreciate you. Thanks for popping in, showing some love. All right. Let's see if I got this. Let's see if I still got it. How about right there, so you can kind of see what we're working on. Okay. So if I do that, it sort of collapses it. Yeah, I guess that works. And then what I can do is I can pull this back a bit. And then I think that's more representative. Maybe. Probably like right there. That might be the best bet. All right. Okay. See what we got. most of the most of the joint ventures formed most of the joint ventures formed with China fail because foreign partners fail to understand this basic tenet. In China, 51% of ownership does not give one control over the venture. Achieving 49% ownership under foreign investor under the misconception. After achieving 49% ownership, the foreign investor, under the misconception that intellectual property protection rights are assured, agrees to allow the Chinese side to appoint the representative director and company general manager. Despite China's lack of robust intellectual property protections. Under the misconception that intellectual property rights are assured, agrees to allow the Chinese side to appoint the representative director and company general manager. Despite China's lack of robust intellectual property protections. In fact, the foreign investor might leave the country altogether, figuring they have done their part by providing money and a product, and leaving their Chinese counterpart in charge of the day-to-day operations. Unfortunately, once the power over operations is out of the investor's hands, it becomes difficult to run a successful partnership. Day-to-day management is what allows them to exert control over the company and push the foreign investors away. Sometimes by using methods like overinflated salaries. For the Chinese management to ensure that the joint venture never turns a profit. Moreover, the Chinese half of the venture has nothing to lose by encouraging the foreign investor to take the matter to court. The court is under Chinese law. The court is under Chinese law and customs. And win or lose, the Chinese still come out ahead. A failed joint venture means means they still got money or resources from a foreign investor and a successful venture. Those dogs are going crazy. A failed joint venture. A failed joint venture means they still got money or resources from a foreign investor, and a successful venture simply means they will take over operations and push the other investor out. In this way, China has commandeered an incredible number of joint ventures. When the foreign investor didn't take the time to consult with a lawyer familiar with Chinese laws, or dove in with dollar signs in their eyes, refusing to believe that the scam could happen to them. To successfully do business in China, one must have feet on the ground, management in place, and active participation in day-to-day operations. To the Chinese mind, working in the business is what makes ownership, and a controlling share means an obvious percentage difference, such as 70%, a number without the sly implications of 51%. Ultimately, can one blame Chinese investors for taking advantage of ignorance? Ultimately, can one blame Chinese investors for taking advantage of ignorance of how a joint venture works in their home country? Ultimately, can one blame Chinese investors for taking advantage of ignorance of how a joint venture works in their country, in their home country? STEM education concerns. American education in STEM science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, subjects lags significantly behind. American education in STEM subjects, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, lags significantly behind our economic rivals. In 2010, in the quality of education in developed nations, in the quality of education of developed nations. United States ranked 31 in math and 23rd in science and 23rd in science, with a significant achievement gap difficult to cross by low-income and minority students. American students fall into the bottom rankings of math and physics knowledge assessments, Zuckerman. But STEM skills in education are what drove innovation. But STEM skills in education are what drove innovation. Now that our economy has shifted from industrial to technological, a technologically educated workforce is essential. And there is no substantial technological education in the United States. And there is no substantial technological education in the United States. About a third of the United States manufacturing companies About a third of United States manufacturing companies report experiencing difficulties in finding enough skilled workers. How can the United States reverse this serious issue? Recommendations from the national academies include improving early childhood education, strengthening math and science curriculums in public schools, training more math and science teachers. A surprising number of STEM-related class teachers are not actually certified to teach the subject. Increased academic and financial support for STEM students. China and India, realizing that they were now capable of competing in the world market, began improving their educational systems, teaching their children earlier for longer, and with an emphasis on math and science. If we expect to catch up, much less remain competitive, the United States must improve STEM education, even if it means bringing in educators and brilliant minds from other countries. If we do not have the resources we need in the United States, the COVID-19 lockdowns negatively impacted education worldwide, worsening this problem. Early analysis by the World Bank estimates the loss of between 0.3 and 1.1 years of schooling knowledge worldwide from the lack of classroom time. And the only Zoom classrooms, and the online-only Zoom classrooms. Azevedo et al., 2021. The population decline. Population fertility rate has subtle but constant influences on social issues such as education, labor, and the social safety net. Yet, Americans are having fewer babies, even when the economy is doing well. Even when the economy is doing well. In 2018, U.S. birth rates hit a In 2018, the U.S. birth rate hit a 32-year low. National Center for Health Statistics, Ford. In 2019, the United States hit an all-time pre-pandemic low of 1.73 births per woman. Births per woman. Then, with the 2020 COVID-19 pandemic, birth rates have plummeted even further. At first, many joked that there would be a baby boom resulting from the pandemic lockdown. Resulting from the pandemic from the pandemic lockdown. What else would people do with all those weeks at home except engage in baby making? Ugh. What else would people do with all those weeks at home except engage in baby making? Or so we thought. But quite the opposite happened. At the turn of December 2020, roughly 9 months after the lockdown began, the results began to show the truth. Birth rates dropped a significant 6% from the year before. Some analysts feel that the pandemic is irrelevant, with the birth rate already decreasing. A lower rate in 2020 and 2021 should be no surprise. Should be no surprise. Shoishet. But times of economic uncertainty make people wait to have children or not. Make people wait to have children or choose not to have them at all. And a public health crisis creates even more uncertainty. Reasons for the United States birth decline. Reasons for United States birth decline. Reasons for United States birth decline. In a 2018 survey conducted by the New York Times, the top 10 reasons respondents gave for not having children or having fewer children than they would like were in large part economic in nature. Miller. The reasons were multiple answers were allowed in the survey. The reasons were multiple answers were allowed in the survey. Childcare is too expensive, 64%. One more time for the children I have, 54%. Worried about the economy, 49%. Can't afford more children, 44%. Waited because of financial instability, 43%. Wanted more leisure time, 42%. Not enough paid family leave, 39%. No paid family leave, 38%. Worried about global instability, 37%. Struggle with work-life balance, 36%. More than half of the nearly 2,000 respondents said that they plan to have fewer children than their parents. These numbers paint a picture of monetary and financial insecurities. Young people have record high student debt. Many graduated during a recession, and many cannot afford homes. I have to take a break for a second. The dogs are going crazy. How many times do I have to stop because of dogs? And many cannot afford homes. The survey then asked more questions. The survey then asked more questions to the people with no children. Of that number, 42% said they did want children. 24% said they did not. And 34% were uncertain. The reasons for either not wanting children or being uncertain were somewhat different, but involved predominantly economic factors. Multiple answers were allowed in the survey. Want leisure time, 36%. Haven't found a partner, 34%. Can't afford childcare, 31%. No desire for children, 30%. 30%. Can't afford a house, 24%. Not sure I'd be a good parent, 24%. Worried about the economy, 23%. Worried about global instability, 18%. Career is a greater priority, 18%. Work too much, 14%. One unusual factor at play is the earning potential for this generation. One unusual factor at play is that the earning potential for this generation is just as likely to be stagnant as it is to go up. In other words, there is about the same chance for a person in this generation to only earn as much as their parents. All right, Michael, you might be saying, so people are having fewer children or no children. So what? The world is overcrowded anyway, isn't it? In the short term, a decrease in the population can seem like a good thing, both environmentally and sociologically. I.e., teen pregnancy rates have dropped, but a population drop has long-reaching effects. In wealthy countries, fertility rates I just want to double check something. Okay. All right. In wealthy countries, fertility rates have not quite met the replacement levels of 2.1 children per woman for many decades. And now, this threshold is high for middle-income countries as well. High-income countries have, ironically, reached a point where their disinterest in having children has put them at risk of being unable to sustain their economies in the future. What does a smaller population mean? What does a smaller population mean? A declining population is a looming crisis that not enough people are talking about. What are the results of fewer people? Fewer products are made, resulting in slower economic growth and increasing unemployment. Living standards could stagnate as the population gradually disappears. Low birth rates in one generation could lead to even lower ones in the next. An aging population creates a greater burden on young people to pay for health care and pensions. The need for buildings and services decline, again contributing to unemployment. Industries that require large labor forces are moved to countries with ready, cheaper labor. There has to be demand for an economy to thrive. Population decline means lower demand. Population decline means lower demand. Government remedies for falling birth rates. Several countries in the European Union where the average birth rate has dropped to about 1.59, lower than the 2.1 rate required to sustain a population, have already enacted measures to combat the declining birth rate. Measures that have been brought up into play with varied success are baby bonuses coupled with tax incentives and paid parental leave. Russia has increased tax breaks. Welfare benefits and maternity benefits in the hopes of raising its birth rate from 1.48. Scandinavian countries such as Sweden give quite generous social and family benefits, including 480 days of parental leave to eligible families. Leading to the highest female and maternal employment rates in the European Union. And the lowest levels of child poverty. BBC News. This is long-term thinking because these governments are aware that the children's lifespans will result in far more money paid to the governments in taxes. For example, these governments are aware that the children's lifespans will result in far more money paid to the government in taxes than the government spends on child benefits, for example. These governments are aware that the children's lifespans will result in far more money paid to the government in taxes than, for example, the government spends on child benefits. Populations feed the economy and keep it robust. Yet, even in these cases, while the population rises, it has not exploded or even dramatically increased, as was hoped. The secret to increasing the population, even in areas where having children is financially rewarded, remains elusive. If the United States elected to pay people to have children, if the United States elected to pay people to have children, particularly in low population areas, we might be able to offset and repair some of the difficulties of a dwindling population. It's a matter of investing in a country's own population. The calculation is simple. When one estimates the value of a productive worker over his or her lifetime, the idea of paying people to have children and care well for them is obvious. The expenses of a declining population far outweigh the expenses of aid for families. The expenses of aid for families. Governments around the world may want to identify demographics and then, on top of tax brackets, simply pay people to have children. until people are encouraged both financially and with positivity to bring children into the world, we will be at a standstill. We'll be seeing the results of the declining population soon, and it's not something that will be remedied. And it's not something that will be remedied overnight, if ever. If ever. If ever. We'll have to come into a new paradigm because the world as it is now will not have sufficient manpower, to keep it running, or, as we have seen, the manpower will be found elsewhere. Meanwhile, the populations of countries such as China and India continue to surge. Of course, this is in part due to outsourcing. Population growth rates are the highest in United Arab Emirates. Population growth rates are highest in the United Arab Emirates and Qatar. Wikipedia contributors, population growth. In countries where the population rises, the economy improves. We can see this from our experience with the baby boom in the United States. The opposite is also true. When the population declines, stagnation occurs. Summary. Summary. Since the economic boom following World War II, the United States has endured a series of events, some uncontrollable and others well within our influence, and others well within our own influence, that have caused us to hand over our economic advantage to countries more willing and eager to achieve economic status. While we have been resting on our laurels, living off the remains of a once mighty economic powerhouse, now we are faced with decisions. We are faced with decisions. We still have the ability to be a major player if we break out of our paradigm. If we break out of our paradigm. Follow the example of forward-thinking nations and put in the work required to stay in a position of power. To stay in a position of power. To stay in a position of power. Okay, all right. That's not too bad. We're at chapter 3. I gotta stand up because I feel my diaphragm like hitting my legs, and I can't really like expand that much. Oh, okay. Chapter 3. 3 of 5. 3 of 5's not bad. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this up a little bit. Probably bring this up as well. It might skirt down throughout, but I think it'll be better suited. All right, okay, and then this probably up a little bit. You're gonna cause an issue, are you? You're gonna cause an issue. Hope not. Hope it doesn't cause an issue. But I never quite know. It falls in the most random times. I do not like it when it falls, because it's a top dollar thing. So yeah, that's not gonna work. Or will it? Yeah, no, it won't. I got another light over here. Here's a light. Bam. There we go. That's something. That's something. Okay. Okay, we're about an hour in, and we're a chapter down. When I say a chapter down, I mean I finished the chapter. So we got chapter 2. Moving on up to... Can never be easy, can it? Chapter E. There we go. Nailed it. Yo, what's up? Hold up. Still here. You're advancing fast. Hey, I appreciate that. Thank you. I think I'll feel pretty good after chapter 3. I think after chapter 3's done, I'll be like, okay, 3 out of 5, we're pretty good. Because then we'll have all of 4 and then all of 5 and then all of the bonus material that we're going to add into this chapter as well. So after 3, I'll feel like it's a good enough chunk. But my only worry is that I have to work tomorrow. And so it's always an issue when I have to work, because I do not feel like doing this after work. I really don't. I really thought that I would be, that I'd be able to just go to work, do my thing, then come home and then read like an hour. Dude, I can't even do that. It is so bad. Maybe the price to pay for being sleepy tomorrow. Yeah, maybe. It's so bad. It's so bad. So hopefully I can knock out most of it tonight. So I'm trying to keep my expectations as low as possible, but also like being hopeful, you know? So I'm like, it'd be cool if I can get all the way through chapter 4 as well and just have 5. That would be nice. I'd like that a lot, because then I wouldn't have to record that much and I could spend most of it editing. But I don't know. You never know. You never know with these things. But with the peace of mind that this is done, I hope, I'm like fingers crossed. But I appreciate it. Thank you, Words and Words. Thank you for the words of wisdom. Thank you. All right. I think I'm pretty good. I think I'm good to jump in. All right. Okay. I got the big booth. So I can stretch a little bit. Lock it in. Let's go. Let's do it. Chapter 3, Inflation. Inflation and what it really means. Defining inflation in a new way. First of all, our definition of inflation is outdated. We need to stop thinking of it simply as things cost more than they used to. Inflation encompasses increases in not only the costs of living, food, everyday needs, housing, and transportation, but also education, healthcare, and long-term loan payments. Long-term loan payments. I want to say that this is not true. This is not true. Long-term loan payments. Because when you, as somebody who's taken out some loans, it would increase in that, like, the loans you take out later in life are larger. But, like, if you take out a loan, for example, for, not saying that you should do this, but if you took out like a $25,000 loan at a 3% APR and you bought assets with that, and those assets increase in value, for example, you would be paying money on that $25,000 throughout time. That number never changes. The buying power relative to that dilutes. So it's like a good thing to have taken a loan in the past, especially when the interest rates are low, because you have more buying power in the future. You have more buying power now with that money. It's more concentrated. It becomes more and more dilute over time. So long-term loan payments remain fixed. I don't really know what they're getting at there. %85 of the United States economy depends on consumerism. Always remember that the government wants you to keep spending. Wants you to keep spending. This is why during the COVID-19 crisis, the government sent stimulus checks to its citizens. They want us to spend. As of 2020, interest rates were so low that it would have been foolish not to take advantage of the opportunity. Debt is not a bad thing when you can take the borrowed money and leverage it for a higher return. Leverage it for a higher return than the interest rates you've charged. How inflation is currently measured. The Consumer Price Index. The Consumer Price Index. In 2019, 85% of the U.S. economy was based on spending. When people stop spending, the economy suffers quickly and badly. And in 2020, we were struck by the biggest drop in spending in many generations. A deadly pandemic and a shutdown. The Consumer Price Index, CPI, is the measure of inflation by U.S. government statisticians. Is the measure of inflation by U.S. government statisticians. It is based on the price level of a fixed basket of goods and services that are meant to represent the average consumer's purchases. The average is, in fact, based on the assumed purchases of a family of four. How changes in the cost of living are measured. Article, Khan Academy. This is the most commonly cited measure of inflation in the United States. However, this way of measuring inflation suffers from serious biases and errors. The substitution bias. The CPI does not consider if the cost of something gets too high. The CPI does not consider that if the cost of something gets too high, the consumers will substitute it with something else. For example, if the cost of beef rises dramatically, people may buy less beef and more pork or chicken. The average amount of money spent on meat might not change at all. The quality bias. The CPI's basket of goods does not account for the improvements in the quality of existing goods or the innovation of new ones. An improvement in an item might raise its price, but the consumer is not paying more for the item per se. The consumer is paying for the item plus its improvement. The new goods bias. New products are only periodically figured into the CPI's revisions. New products are only periodically figured into the CPI's revisions. It takes some time for the demand for a new product to figure into the CPI. Particularly in the case of rapidly advancing technology, the CPI is usually several years behind. By not accounting for new goods, the CPI also underestimates the cost of living. The bias of location. The CPI is based on the cost of physical items in brick and mortar stores and does not account for reduced costs that can be obtained online. In online stores. The real cost of living. Conceptually, the CPI does not reflect the same thing as the cost of living. The cost of living is a more nebulous term, representing how much it costs for you, the consumer, to feel that your level of consumption is providing a fair level of satisfaction or usefulness. The Core Inflation Index. The Core Inflation Index takes the CPI and excludes more volatile items, specifically food and energy prices. to measure the long-term trends in prices. Food and energy prices are subject to variables such as seasons and weather, so the price can jump unpredictably. Following a serious storm that impacts oil prices, the price of gasoline can rise dramatically for a few weeks, impacting the average family's CPI. However, the core inflation index would not. The core inflation index would not change. So the Federal Reserve's decision making on interest rates would remain unaffected. Temporary price changes are not considered to affect the national economy. The national economy, Kelly. This measure of inflation is more often used in government policymaking. This measure of inflation is more often used in government policymaking. The Bureau of Labor Statistics, BLS, has worked since the early 2000s to improve methods of calculating the CPI, which included more frequent updates to the basket of goods, and mathematics that included accounting for substitution bias. For example, their efforts have reduced substantial substitution bias quite a bit, and the quality new goods bias biases to some extent. But CPI is still overstating the true rise in inflation. It's a bit of a trade-off. Calculating CPI with a simple formula leads to a straightforward answer with many biases. Calculating CPI with more complex considerations and mathematics results in more accurate numbers, but more room for debate, argument, and interpretation of what the definitions of those considerations really are. Other measures of prices developed by the BLS are the GDP, Gross Domestic Product, deflator, the GDP deflator, Gross Domestic Product. The GDP, which measures the GDP, Gross Domestic Product, deflator, which measures all components of GDP and does not reflect cost of living as it includes items that are as it includes items that are not purchased by households, i.e., cost of aircraft, public service vehicles, or construction equipment. Producer Price Index. Producer Price Index, based on prices of supplies bought by producers of goods/services. Employment Cost Index, a measure of wage inflation. A measure of wage inflation. International Price Index, the price of imported or exported merchandise. The BLS also has measures that can look at specific populations, demographics, sociological groups, or geographical areas. Geographical areas. According to the BLS, the best measure of inflation is the one targeted toward the intentions of the researcher. According to the BLS, the best measure of inflation is the one targeted toward the intentions of the researcher. Why we need a new measurement of inflation. The CPI counts goods and services consumed during a period of time for the average family. It does not, however, include the costs of healthcare, education, real estate, energy, or stock market percentage increases. Stock market percentage increases. In life, there are three basic needs: food, shelter, and clothing. The CPI only counts clothing fully. Food and shelter are only partially accounted for. While many of these prices can fluctuate dramatically, depending on world events, a separate measure of inflation should calculate the following into a single basket of food, housing, healthcare, and stock market percentage increases. Stock market percentage increases. This measure could show how the real world impacts This measure could show the real-world impact of the extremely low interest rates we saw from 2012 to the historic low in 2021. The CPI is used as a factor in raising or lowering the interest or lowering the interest rates on housing purchases. Yet, the cost of housing is not included in the CPI because payment is spread out over a number of years. Yet car payments, also a large purchase with payments usually spread out over a number of years, are included in the CPI. are included in the CPI. I believe that the Federal Reserve has, for years, been trying to achieve inflation. But has not managed to do so for the following reasons. The stagnation of the U.S. population. Previously discussed, but to recap, between July 2019 and 2020, it was at a century low. A century low of 3.5% growth. And the pandemic is anticipated to result in a dramatic drop in births in a dramatic drop in births over the next year. Strictly from a population perspective, the United States will no longer be a top 5 economy. The United States will soon no longer be a top 5 economy. It is interesting to note, however, that in higher population countries, many of the corporations are American. The labor and creation are done elsewhere, and we are merely the suits who move the pieces on the board. The growth of technology. Today, India is the 5th largest country in the world, and it is heavily focused on IT, particularly in automation, increasing productivity, which lowers inflation globally. The existence and power of Amazon. Which I refer to as a global inflation killer. Amazon's operations. Amazon's operation without storefronts significantly reduces costs and undercuts retailers in brick and mortar stores. Ironically, Amazon has tried traditional brick and mortar operations and, in many cases, found that the general customer preferred online shopping over Amazon branded brick and mortar stores. Amazon and others have trained users to prefer online shopping over brick and mortar stores. Amazon and others have trained users to prefer online shopping over brick and mortar stores. Lastly, people are malinvesting capital from artificial price increases. Bitcoin is an example of this. Currently, the Federal Reserve is creating asset bubbles in both the Bitcoin and housing markets. Malinvesting capital supply means that people are investing in assets that rise in price, not from any real value, but from government intervention. The Austrian School of Economics is a way of looking at the value of items. Value is completely subjective, given by its ability to satisfy human wants. However, Actual value depends on the product's utility. Actual value depends on the product's utility in its least important use. Marginal utility. That is, if a product is abundant, it will be used in less important ways. The editors of Encyclopedia Britannica. The scarcer a product is, the more important its least important use. The scarcer a product is, the more important its least important use will be. Quite a word puzzle there, isn't it? I don't fully subscribe to the Austrian school of economics, preferring to combine schools of thought using their most practical theories. In this case, the value being created by the Federal Reserve is fake and will eventually revert to the mean because it is based on, basically, nothing but fantasy. People will discover that they have invested in things that are worthless or things that may not even exist in reality. In fact, most companies rely on artificial amounts of money to stay in business. Instead of malinvesting, I strongly recommend safeguarding against inflation with investment in real estate. Instead of malinvesting, I strongly recommend safeguarding against inflation with investment in real estate and physical asset classes. If the Federal Reserve eventually needs to raise interest rates, deflation will occur, a far worse condition than inflation. 85% of the consumer economy depends on consumption. If the prices fall, individuals prefer to wait to spend, which causes prices to fall further, exacerbating unemployment. This results in a vicious circle of an economy lying dead in the water. The Federal Reserve has been struggling to accurately predict inflation for the last decade. But due to the incomplete way that inflation is calculated, they continuously fail to do so. A new calculation for inflation would show that inflation is, in fact, occurring. A new calculation for inflation would show that inflation is, in fact, occurring, and that consumers and investors should behave accordingly. Whew. 27 minutes, okay. I think chapter 2 was just like huge because that was literally, like, I'm looking at it right now. It is, chapter 2 was an hour and 5 minutes, and then chapter 3 was 27. I'm like, bruh, that is crazy right there. Okay, let's see. Let's mute that. Okay. I'm thinking about giving my voice just like a second to chill. Let me look. Cause chapter 4 is stock, and I love me some stocks. I do be loving some stocks. So this is gonna be a fun section. It's probably gonna be a long section too. It looks long. Let's see, 65, and then we're on chapter 5. Is chapter 5 long though? I think chapter 5 is half the book. Oh, final conclusion. Okay. So it ends on page 87. So what is that? 87 minus 65. 22 pages. Is it 65? So it's about 22. Yeah, 65. So 22 pages there, and then so 65 minus, where are we at? I think it's like 30, right? Is it 42? Yo, 42 though? 42? 23. Okay, so they're pretty equidistant. And then I remember he added this final conclusion. Oh, he doesn't want me to read the sources, yeah. Final conclusion pages like whatever. That doesn't matter. 12, I think it's 12 pages. Yeah, it's not bad. So 22, 23, and then 12, and then we have the bonus section. So I think given what we're experiencing now, it's 9. Shoot, we knocked out a lot. This is pretty good. I'm feeling good being at the end of chapter 3 for sure. I think chapter 3 was a short one, so it's a good like stopping point for the time being. I think what I'm gonna do though is I'm going to maybe just like rest the voice for a half second. Get like locked in, make sure my voice is like not too overworked, because I can sort of feel it starting to get to that point. So I could see us going to the end of chapter 4 for sure. But I don't know about chapter 5. Like, I might have to wait until tomorrow for chapter 5, final conclusion, and the bonus content. I think that would probably set me up pretty well, although it is quite a bit tomorrow. Though I think that's a good compromise. I think that's a good compromise for the time being. And hopefully I can beg, borrow, and steal from my future energy. We'll see. I'm definitely not going to be let out early tomorrow. Definitely not going to be let out early tomorrow. That's for sure. I'm behind on a lot, so I definitely need to spend the day working away. All right. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna rest my voice for a second. But I think that I still think that we can make this work. I think the biggest bottleneck is going to be like vocal health, and I want to make sure that I'm being mindful of my ability to speak. So I'm going to put it on the BRB screen. I'm going to take a break for just a half of a second. And we're going to come back in and knock it out of the park, guys. Knock it out of the park. Love you, and I will see you here in a second. I will be right back.
This Black Friday, you can clean your retainer at the touch of a button.
No,
No more brushing or
dude,
tablets.
not
Over 4 years ago,
pads.
our team of engineers knew there had to be a
So
quicker,
sad.
easier, and more effective way to deep clean oral appliances. After scouring through the research, they discovered the hidden crisis. With the worldwide rise of oral appliance usage, unhygienic appliances had become an epidemic, with acid-producing bacteria eroding enamel and damaging teeth over time, causing serious harm to your oral health. Outdated cleaning methods have dominated our routines for far too long, compromising on either scrubbing power or proper sterilization. They're also manual, messy, and mundane. The latest studies show brushing is ineffective at the microscopic level, and those tablets leave behind bacterial biofilms, both fueling the dental disaster. So after 2 years of engineering in London, leveraging ultrasonic technology from the clinical dentistry field, we developed the first retainer cleaning machine, effortlessly deep cleaning your retainer, aligner, guard, or other oral appliance at the touch of a button. Just add water, and the ultrasonic scrubbing action gets to work, leaving you with a crystal clear and hygienically clean oral appliance. For the truest test, in our controlled trials, we took patients' brushed retainers, placing them in the dental pod versus popular tablet brands. At the touch of a button, the dental pod restored the retainers to new, whilst the messy tablet retainers were still biofilm ridden. It was this irrefutable evidence coupled with its sleek design that led thousands of dentists to recommend the dental pod to their patients. And after garnering countless testimonials and reviews, the dental pod was voted the must-have product of the year by dentists, sparking a retainer cleaning revolution. Our mission is taking over, giving everyone access to the best professional-grade dental technology in their own home and helping dentists worldwide reverse the retainer tooth decay crisis by enabling a safe oral appliance journey for all. Click this exclusive link for access to their biggest Black Friday sale. Limited quantity available.
And when you get iPhone 17 Pro on Spectrum, you get the same seamless connection you love at home. On the go.
Get the new iPhone 17 Pro, now available on Spectrum.
places. There we go. You're all good.
Why did that not transfer? My bad. Hello. Hello. Oh my gosh. Oh, whoa. Flew right into it. This thing's crazy right now. This whole stocking is just going out of control. Had to make sure I had enough to eat tonight. Had to get enough to eat tonight. Okay. That was good. That was needed. That was definitely needed. So, I bad for the extended away. I think it was probably been about 30-ish minutes, so sorry about that. I don't know how long you can actually be away on here. Hold up. Is that a rule? Oh, hello. Oh, that is so cool. I just came on to my stream and I saw for the first time the charity. Wow. We're fundraising for Rise Overrun. Your donation goes to support this charity. Wow. That's cool. Subscribe to earn drops. Oh, that's neat. That's so cool. I love that. And so if you click on that, oh, it doesn't say anything, but it does show up. Oh, you could do subtitles. Look at that. Okay, so if I put in like Espanol, font size smooth. Okay, so if I were to talk just like this, would it appear now that I've subtitled it? Typing? Does typing work? Okay. Oh. There we go. There's a little subtitle me down below. And you know what? Maybe if I Okay, I'm getting distracted. I probably shouldn't mess with that. But still, I definitely wanted to see if it had that. It looks like subtitle me does appear, and it does have a little thing on the bottom. But I don't think it is fully connected just yet. Let's log into my account. I know I'm getting a little distracted, but I'm just a tad bit curious about this right now. Okay, the little subtitle is down there. Love that, love that. Subtitle me. And it is, let's do this one right here. Catalan? Let's do Catalan. Does it appear? Subscribe to earn drops. What is drops? Get rewards by purchasing or gifting subscriptions while they're live in any category. Okay. Cool. That is incredible. Wow. I love it. It should prevent me from... Yeah, okay. I was like, okay, that's what... Oh. Don't miss the final days. Save 35% on gift sub bundles. Oh, I didn't realize you could do that. That's cool. How cool. How cool. There's Streamlabs merch store down below. I should list my books down below. That would be cool. I think that's the next step. That's the next step for us. I think so. Stream manager. Looks like we're doing pretty well. Oh, cool. There's a bits goal. Let's go to analytics. I'm a sucker for analytics. Let's go to engagement. Let's see. Oh, nice. Let's see. What do I? Aw, that was so sweet. $1 of cheering. That was a lot. I didn't realize 25 was so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, actually, no. Sorry. This is from a different day. I think this is 100 from earlier in the month. Which brings it to 22. Okay. Okay. All right. I think we're good. I think I pretty much checked it all out. I would like to get to know how to make the subtitle work. I would like to know how to make subtitle work. That would be cool. Yo, that's cool. Halfway to our bits goal. I love that. And then what? Well, let's see. Oh, look at that. That's cool. All right.
What? What? What?
What?
All right, here we go.
Chapter 4.
Chapter 4. I think that's pretty ill advice, but this is me.
Chapter 4. Stock Market Investing. Stock Market Investing. The basics of stock market investing. In the next chapters, we'll discuss what you need to do to protect yourself, your business, and your investments in this economic landscape. In this economic landscape. There might have been a time when stocks were only purchased by the wealthy, but with technological advances and information availability, just about anyone can invest in the stock market. Just about anyone can invest in the stock market. In this chapter, we'll be tackling stock market investing, differentiating this from real estate or other real property investments. These are investing methods that let you benefit from the success of companies, industries, and even other countries. Still, it's not as simple as just saying, I want to put my money in stocks, and then watching the dividends roll in. But you know that already, don't you? Almost anyone who's watched enough TV shows knows that there are some. Almost everyone who has watched TV knows that there are some rules to play by. Buy low, sell high. Look for the next top thing. Diversify. That is, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Sounds simple enough. It is simple at first. Let's cover those simple parts. Investment opportunities. These are the 10 common types of stock market related investments. Shares, stocks, equities. Shares in a company are the same thing as stocks, sometimes also called equities. They are the simplest form of investment. Though this doesn't mean they are the easiest form of investment. Stock is the value of a company, a combination of its brand name, assets, and profits. The stock of a company is divided into shares. And if a company is publicly traded, those shares are available for purchase. Owning stock means that you own a small piece of the company, and the value of your share rises or falls with the company's success or failure. Companies do not always succeed. Companies do not always succeed. This is a risk taken by the shareholder. Thus, it is important to diversify your holdings for one simple reason. If one company performs poorly, it won't destroy your whole investment plan. Does it seem strange? Does it seem strange? Does it seem strange that a company would want to give Joe Public the chance to buy shares? Actually, selling shares helps a company raise money. Actually, selling shares helps a company raise money without turning to a bank loan. The shareholder is then rewarded, hopefully, for having faith in the company's success. There are a couple of ways this reward can come. A dividend is a regular payment from the company's profits to the shareholder. The shareholder keeps their shares, and possibly the price of the stock doesn't vary much over time. Whether or not a dividend will be paid and the value of that dividend is decided by the company's board of directors. Shares can be sold at a profit if they have increased in value. Obviously, you no longer own the shares you sell. Obviously, you no longer own the shares you sell. Obviously, you no longer own the shares you sell. Bonds. Bonds are ways to lend money to either a corporate entity, corporate bonds, or to a government entity, municipal bonds. You give the money for an agreed upon amount. You give the money for an agreed upon amount of time. During that time, you receive interest payments on that amount. When the bond matures, you have reached the end of the lending period and get your money back with interest. Bonds, particularly municipal bonds, have a lower risk than stocks. Corporate bonds may fail. Corporate bonds may fail if the company fails, but are still considered more valuable. Considered more valuable than the stock market. Mutual funds. Mutual funds. This is often where retirement funds This is often where retirement funds are grown. They are usually considered low risk because of their diversification. With many different investments, one stumbling asset doesn't upset the overall gains. A mutual fund is a pool of investor money that is invested by an investment management company. Like Edward Jones or Vanguard into various companies and various types of investments, including shares, bonds, commodities, derivatives, and currencies. They can be managed in two different ways. Actively, with a fund manager who physically gets into the investments, picking and choosing, with the goal of outdoing the market index. The fund manager is motivated to make good choices because their own paychecks depend on the value of the fund. Because their own paycheck depends on the value of the fund. Passively. This is an index fund. Earlier I said that stocks were the simplest investments, but not necessarily the easiest. The index fund may be the easiest. All an index fund does is track a major stock market indices. And purchase shares in many companies. It rises and falls in value. Alongside the market index. But there is no one at the helm. Because there is no one at the helm, the index fund makes no promises to beat the market. Because there's no one at the helm, the index fund makes no promises to beat the market. The appeal of an index fund is that it charges lower fees. Charges lower fees than an actively managed fund. Instead, they have an expense ratio. Instead, they have an expense ratio, which is the percentage of the assets that a brokerage uses to cover its operational costs. They're diversified. They take out a lot of the work. they take out a lot of the work of investing. And because they have fewer sales, they produce less taxable income for the investor. If you're interested in index funds, if you're interested in index funds, it is recommended to purchase more than one type. Look up stocks versus bonds, international versus domestic, and mix it up. Index funds allow the investor to relax, in a manner of speaking. Their foundational basis is that there is no real secret to the stock market, and there is little point in trying to cast magic or pray to the investment gods. Following the market is the best chance of making a profit. Exchange-traded funds, ETFs. Like mutual funds. Okay, I can feel my throat getting there. Okay. Like mutual funds. These are sets of investments tracking the market index. Unlike a mutual fund, however, ETFs are sold directly on the stock market and can be purchased by individuals without going through an agency. I find ETFs to be the better investment because they mimic mutual funds but are less costly. Certificates of deposit. Probably the most risk-free of investments. The certificate of deposit, CD, is an FDIC insured way to make a predetermined amount of interest on money, provided you are willing to part with it for a predetermined amount of time. You simply buy a CD for a specified amount of time, and then wait a number of years. you are in effect extending a loan. When the time is up, you get your money back plus interest. And there you have it. Guaranteed, but not impressive, profit. Guaranteed, but not impressive, profit. Withdrawing money from a CD before maturity can result in stiff penalties. Retirement plans. You know these. They are the 401k, the solo 401k for the self-employed. Keogh. How do you pronounce that? Keogh. Pronounced Keogh. Okay. The Keogh HR10 for unincorporated businesses or the self-employed. An IRA or a 403(b) plan. The difference between retirement plans and mutual funds, for example, is that the money for retirement plans is usually exempt from taxes, either allowing investors to invest pre-tax money or allowing them to withdraw money without paying taxes, or allowing them to withdraw money without paying taxes. There are other options too. There are other options available too that are particularly helpful. If your 401k is maxed out. Let's look at one of my favorites. Indexed Universal Life. Indexed Universal Life. This is a rather exciting and relatively new type of retirement planning. The Indexed Universal Life Insurance Policy, IUL. These life insurance policies, developed circa 1997, invest your money in a number of indexes. They offer the chance to accumulate cash value in addition to providing a death benefit. However, there is a level of complexity to understanding and managing such policies. So don't jump into the IUL swimming pool without floaters. IULs are one of the several variations of the universal life insurance policy. Life insurance policies that carry a cash value. Life insurance policies that carry a cash value. That carry a cash value. That carry a cash value. That can be accessed by the policyholder under certain conditions. IULs permit the owner to link the cash value of their policy or portions of it to a fixed account or to an equity index account. Usually well-known indexes such as the NASDAQ 100. These policies allow the owner to accumulate cash-deferred taxes. When the policy owner pays a premium, the cost of life insurance, and any fees are first taken from the premium, the remaining money is added to the policy's cash value. The policy's cash value is never invested directly into the stock market, but is instead credited with interest payments based on increases in an equity index. That equity index is monitored monthly. The percentage of gains made by the index is multiplied by the policy's cash value. And that money is added to your cash value. And that money is added to your is added to your cash value. Wait, what? How does that work? Sounds like money for nothing, doesn't it? Sounds like money for nothing, doesn't it? Why would an insurance company just give you money? Well, they won't, but again, it's complicated. The money made on the index fund is typically not all given back to you. The money made on the index fund is typically not all given back to you. And there is a trade-off. The insurance policy has already guaranteed you a yearly interest rate on your cash value. The insurance policy has already guaranteed you a yearly interest rate on your cash value. When you when you link your cash value to an index, you basically relinquish your annual interest rate to the insurance company. They may take your interest and invest it in the index fund of your choice. If that index does well, your insurance company keeps a percentage of the profits and returns the rest to you by adding it to your overall cash value. Or as a dividend. If the index fund does very well, if the index fund does very well, you have an opportunity to make a tidy profit. There's a reduced risk for you because your money, your cash value, is not directly invested in the stock market. Regardless of what happens in the stock market, you will not lose your cash value. You will not lose your cash value. As you might have guessed, if the index falls during the month, your account receives no interest for that month. Your account receives no interest for that month. Nothing from the stock market, nothing from the insurance, nothing from the stock market, nothing from the insurance company. That is why there is flexibility within an IUL. That is why there is flexibility within an IUL, allowing you to link to indexes at your discretion and accept the annual interest rate when the stock market doesn't look promising. Generally, the policyholder is given a choice of indexes, a choice in the percentages allocated to a fixed or indexed accounts, and a guaranteed minimal fixed interest rate. IULs have many advantages. Cash value accumulation, a death benefit, flexibility, ease of distribution, and unlimited contributions. However, they work best with larger amounts of money, and an index's performance is never guaranteed. Derivatives are the advanced class. Derivatives are the advanced class of stock marketing investment. Because of their risk and complexity, investors should be fairly knowledgeable before embarking on this type of trading. Casual investors, such as those saving for retirement, are typically not involved in derivatives, as these are often used by big players in the stock market as a hedge. In effect, a type of investment insurance policy that can mitigate losses. A derivative is a contract between two or more parties. Based on an asset. The asset is decided on by the parties and can be anything tradable. Though often the asset is a class such as stocks, bonds, commodities, or currencies. Derivatives are a way of ensuring that the original seller gets the fair value of their asset regardless of what happens to the market. The buyer takes the risk, paying the same price whether the market drops, the assets aren't worth what the buyer paid, rises, the assets are worth more than what the buyer paid, and can be resold as a profit, or remains the same. There are two types of derivatives: lock and option. Locks, also known as forwards, futures, or swaps, mean that from the outset the parties have agreed upon terms for the contract's life. The exchange must happen as agreed upon, regardless of possible losses. A futures contract is a contract to buy or sell a commodity. Defined below. For a certain price or a certain date. Options offer the right a right to buy or sell an asset at a certain price before the expiration date. The asset is based on the value of the underlying stock. Options have an upfront cost called an option premium. A call option gives the buyer the right to buy an underlying stock at a strike price preset by the agreement by the expiration date of the contract. A put option gives the stockholder the right to sell the underlying stock at a preset price by the expiration date. Annuities. An annuity is an insurance policy with a An annuity is an insurance policy with periodic payments. They are frequently used as part of an overall retirement plan, in addition to other investments and savings. There are a number of variables in annuities. They may be set up for different lengths of time. Including an individual lifetime. They may require one upfront payment or multiple payments. They may or may not be linked to the stock market. They may pay immediately, or they may defer payment until a later time. Their payments may be variable or fixed. These variables are the choice of the person purchasing the annuity. As with any low-risk investment, they also have a low growth rate. One second. Okay, we're like at 40. This is 48 or 49? 49. We're at 49. 49 out of, I think it's 64. So basically 14-ish pages away. Almost halfway through the chapter. Yeah, I think that's a good stopping point. Currencies. Forex, sometimes called FX. Sometimes called FX, is the currency market. The world's largest investment market. Even so, there are a fairly small number of currency pairs that remain responsible for a majority of the trading activity and the volume of the trades. Forex fluctuates based on a country's economy, but also on political stability, or risk. Trade agreements, interest rates, and supply and demand for a particular currency, among many other factors. Currency trading is no easier than stock trading, but as the trades are conducted between a fairly limited number of pairs, managing a currency portfolio can be less confusing. You may have heard that the currency market is open 24 hours a day. 24 hours a day. But that is not precisely true. There are there are 3 different sessions during the day. The Asian, the European, and the United States. Trading sessions, each based on the stock market hours, each based on the market hours of those central locations. So traders who focus on pairs between the yen. So traders who focus on pairs based on the yen will find the most trade happening during the Asian session. Currency is often traded in units called lots. These range from 100 units of the base currency, nanolots, to 100,000 units of the base currency, standard lots. Your base currency is the original currency in which your account is funded. Currencies are traded in pairs from one unit of currency to another, such as euros to dollars. You must buy one currency and sell another currency simultaneously. The majority of the trading is done between 18 currency pairs. The majority of the trading is done between 18 currency pairs. And the currencies most often traded are US dollar, USD, Canadian dollar, CAD, Euro, EUR, British pound, GBP, the Swiss franc, CHF, New Zealand dollar, NZD, Australian dollar, AUD, Japanese yen, JPY. I highly recommend currency trading because the bonds pay out on different days. That provides you with terrific diversification in your portfolio. Time frames in currencies investing. Evaluating currency pairs using time frames using timeframes is a basic strategy that should not be overlooked when dealing in currency trading. In currencies evaluation, a multiple time frame analysis is key. A multiple time frame analysis is key to improving one's chances of making successful trades. Even when novice traders can use this method to ensure that they are benefiting from underlying trends. Even novice traders can use this method to ensure that they are benefiting from underlying trends. There are a fair number of free software programs online that can help you manage this. With candlestick timeframes. Which give quite a thorough and enlightening picture of a currency's performance. But enter only if you have the time and inclination to delve deep into the investment weeds. All right, you've heard the warning. Now, what the heck does it all mean? What the heck does it mean to look at those time frames? Time frames look at a currency pair across different periods of time. We can use as many time frames as we like. Generally, it is recommended to consult at least 3. These are long-term, medium-term, and short-term time frames. These three time frames will give a pretty solid reading of the market. Here's how to judge what time frames use. Here's how to judge what time frames to use. Consider how long your average trade is held. This will be your medium-term time frame. The short-term time frame is 1/4 of the time. The short-term time frame is 1/4 of the time of the medium-term time frame. The long-term time frame is 4 times as long. The long-term time frame is 4 times as long as the medium-term time frame. Great. But how do I use these? But how do these time frames apply to the Forex market? For example, if I were holding my currencies for 12 hours, then 12 hours would be my medium-term time frame. Then 3 hours would be my short-term time frame. Then 3 hours would be my short-term time frame. And 2 days would be my long-term time frame. And 2 days would be my long-term time frame. And 2 days would be my long-term time frame. I would look at my currency's performance over at least those three periods of time. Over at least those 3 periods of time. We start with our longest term time frame. From this, we establish our dominant trend. From this, we establish our dominant trend. With the dominant trend, we can see the direction. We can see the direction in which our trades should go. Hint: they should always go towards the long-term trend. Within the long-term trend, pay attention to major economic trends. Pay attention to major economic trends. Account deficits, consumer spending, business investment, and especially interest rates, which are always a basic component in exchange rates. In exchange rates. Understanding these will help you understand the direction. Understanding these will help you understand the direction of the trend. Usually, the currency with the higher interest rates will generate greater capital. Next, we look at the medium term time frame. This will demonstrate smaller movement in the broad trend. It is our most versatile time frame. Use this level when planning the trade. Use this level when planning the trade. As the position nears its profit target or stop loss, then break it down into smaller and smaller time frames. One at least. To see if the momentum continues. Within the candlestick model, you will easily be able to see periods. Of larger movement. And these are the times when you want to make your trades. Remember, while we use medium-term time frames to plan trades, we use short-term time frames to execute trades. We use short-term time frames to execute trades. These let us choose a place for entry because we have already seen the trends. On the higher frequency charts. Because we have already seen the trends on the higher frequency charts. At this level, fundamentals still play a role, but in a different way. The smaller your time frame is, the more dramatic the reaction to economic indicators will seem. The more dramatic the reaction to economic indicators will seem. Of course, in any case, it is possible, and sometimes profitable, to bet against the trend or ignore trends altogether. However, your probability of success is much lower, especially over multiple trades. Remember, anyone can get lucky and win once on a bad bet or massively unlucky probability. That doesn't make it a good bet. Trends win in the end. The largest market in the world, the spot forex or spot FX market, involves immediately trading immediate trading of one currency for another. It's on-the-spot delivery, though in reality, the exchange might take 1 to 2 business days. Spot trades are the simplest kind of trades to make. If you wish to follow trends, I recommend taking note of trade activity on Spot FX. Which tends to continue trends. The CBOT, Chicago Board of Trade. The CBOT Trader Report, Chicago Board of Trade, is another excellent resource for following market trends. Cryptocurrencies. These are digital assets that have no government backing. Because they are a new option subject to unpredictable and dramatic fluctuations in value. Cryptocurrencies are considered an extremely risky investment. Centralized exchanges, those are CEXs or online platforms for regulated cryptocurrency exchange, can be deregulated, meaning the government regulation is removed from the mix. While deregulation technically allows more freedom, no rules, it also means reduced protection for investors. It also means reduced protection for investors. Reduced protection for investors. It also means reduced protection for investors. Cryptocurrencies are also plagued with criminal activities, such as being used for money laundering and to fund terrorism because of their anonymity. because of their anonymity. The accounts are quite difficult to trace. The accounts are quite difficult to trace. Millennials prefer to buy cryptocurrencies. Millennials prefer to buy cryptocurrencies. They see these as their currency. Since everything is moving towards digital currencies with multiple formats, there are plenty of opportunities to invest. But beware of the bubble. These shiny new toys tend to revert to the norm after a time. These shiny new toys tend to revert to the norm after a time. Commodities. These are physical things that can be invested in and fall into four main categories. Metals, both precious and industrial. Agricultural crops. Livestock. Energy, oil, petroleum, natural gas. Commodities trading values. Commodities trading values are highly vulnerable to world events. Commodities trading values are highly vulnerable to world events. Why do investment prices fluctuate? Ideally, you buy shares of a company and, over time, the value of that company rises. The value of that company rises. The share value might rise a little. The share value might rise a little or drop a little day to day. There might be bad months. Or great ones. But over the long haul, company values increase and your share value increases. That's what everyone is hoping for. If shareholders lose their interest or trust in a company and sell their shares, more shares are available. And the share price drops. This at least is standard economic theory. If the demand is high for a product, the price goes up. If the demand is low, the price drops. Simple. However, if that's all there was to it, we'd all be stock market millionaires. The stock market is a gamble. And the deck may be stacked against you if you blindly follow the crowd. There is far more contributing to the value of the shares. There is far more contributing to the value of shares than the real dollar value of a company. As a matter of fact, at some point, the game At some point, the game of the stock market becomes something like a religion. At some point, the game of the stock market becomes something like a religion or a school of wizardry. A lot of fluctuation comes down to belief, faith, and hope. On a day-to-day basis, shares have the exact value that people believe they have. This is why the stock market can have sudden, violent shifts based on a politician's words. Based on a politician's words. A news story, true or false, good or bad, a rumor or a misunderstanding. A rumor or a misunderstanding. A rumor or a misunderstanding. A natural disaster. A law change. A report on one country's economy, or the breakout of a war. A few important people selling their shares, especially large amounts of shares, can cause unprecedented panic. A few people having faith in one company can drive its A few people having faith in one company can drive its profitability. Can drive its profitability. Market crashes happen because everything in the various markets is linked. Thus, asset classes usually move together. Even diversification can fail when a market-wide panic results in a crash. Black swan events are unpredictable and rare events that have devastating impacts on the market. Two recent examples are the housing market collapse in 2008 and the COVID-19 related shutdown of major economies around the world. Around the world. In both cases, the United States government took extraordinary measures to stabilize the market, desperately trying to avoid the stock market crash of 1929. The 1929 crash was devastating as we saw billions in 1929 dollars being wiped out in October 2019. In October 1929, the Dow Jones Industrial Average went from 375 in March 1929 to just 50 in 1932. With multiple days of 10+% drops in the market. Then a slow and steady decline. Imagine the money you Imagine the money you invested in your stock market. Imagine the money you invested in your index fund having just 13% of the value in three short years. In 3 short years. In 3 short years. The massive drop in confidence and value also led the massive drop in confidence and value also led banks to bank runs, and thousands of banks collapsed. What are we at? An hour and 12 minutes into this. I think we have like 10 more pages. Yeah. Yeah, like 10 more pages. Which means, hold up. Because if I remember correctly, there were 22 pages. So if there's 10 pages left, that means I've read through 12 pages, which means we're just over halfway. Boy, oh boy, these things take forever. Also, 55 out of 100 pages puts us at the halfway mark. Basically at the halfway point. That's funny. You guys are so funny. Alright, I'm like real tired. So, considerations for investing. Do you need an advisor? I'm feeling like probably leaving this for tomorrow. As much as I don't want to, because I'll be equally as tired tomorrow. I'll be honest, I should have just done this yesterday. That's all it is. Because then it would have put me in a good position to finalize recording for today. But I was a heathen, an absolute heathen. And I did not heed the warnings. And I'm a glutton for punishment and procrastination. I cannot help it. I need to do it. It's a compulsion. It's a compulsion within me. I need to procrastinate at all times. I don't know what that is. I don't know where it comes from, but I really enjoy things being I think it's like an energy thing. I think it's like sometimes I really do feel like I just have zero energy to do anything whatsoever. Except if I know like I have zero energy to do anything except meet a deadline. I know that if I have 24 hours worth of work to do, I will wait until 11:59 the day prior to get started. And then I will work 24 hours straight on something. Like,
You guys seen it with the red light therapy one. Like, with that one, they were like, yo, we're canceling the contract. And I was like, I will work throughout the night for 2 nights straight for you to not do that. Like, I can't help. I need to do that for some reason. I don't think it's beneficial. But, man. Sometimes I wonder if it's the push from previous times that makes me so devilishly tired. But anyway, that's about it for me tonight, guys. That's it for me tonight. That's it for me tonight. I hope you guys have a wonderful night. I had a good time filming with you guys. 4 hours in here, 4 hours in it. But I will say, I could have streamed for another 40 minutes, and I probably would have gotten through the chapter if it didn't go live on TikTok. But I have access to live on TikTok now. So God bless you, Eric. Thank you so much. Words and words. I appreciate you. God bless you as well. I'll have some coffee tomorrow. Oh, I definitely will. Though I'm at the point where just coffee just doesn't help. I feel like coffee is like an adrenal fatigue thing for me now. Like, I drink it and I think that it will do something, and then I get to work and it's like, I think it's all it does is create like indigestion. But I always think that it's doing something. You know what I mean? Stand up every 10 minutes. Hey, I'm fortunate enough to have a stand-up desk. I do like that. I have a little thing that I can, and then like, the thing will like level up, and then I can just stand up and be like, oh, okay. But I did do legs recently, so I might, or work standing up. Yeah, I like that actually. I like that because it gets me engaged, and I always feel like I'm doing more than I do more standing up than I do sitting down. But I don't know. I'll have to test that theory, and that's taken care of. I hope so. I really do hope so. I do limit myself now to 1 cup of coffee. I only do 1 cup now. I used to be a fiend. I would drink 900 milligrams of caffeine every day. I would do, because the energy drinks will have 300 milligrams a piece. So I would go to work and I would drink either a Bang or a Reign Energy, and I would drink one there, like on the way. I would drink one the moment I sit down to get started for the day. And then I would drink a third one somewhere around middle of the day. And I did that like throughout the pandemic. I did that a lot. And I don't think it was necessarily the most healthy thing in the world, but I was a compulsive, I was pretty addicted to it. I just want a 2-month coffee-free diet. I love that. It's amazing how you feel after that. I had headaches for the first 2 days. Yeah, those headaches are no joke. So I commend you for that limit. It's hard, but it's for the better. Yeah, I'll say this. If you're ever considering doing a coffee fast like that, I recommend doing it on a day where like you have nothing going on and you're just chilling. You're just big chilling. So like a Sunday where you can like actually do nothing. Because I think it puts you to that point to where like everything is so frustrating. And it's such a headache to do like the most minuscule amount of stuff. It sucks. It definitely sucks, but it is for the better. You're exactly right. It's so much better when you can get there. I'm going to put my glasses to the side and wish you all a wonderful good night. Oh, you know what would be fun? What if I had cameras that like were outside that are like aimed at this booth, and then like as I'm like signing off or something, like it shows like the external view of it. That'd be cool. I don't intend to part ways with coffee again, but thanks. Truman Show, Eric. Yeah, facts. Should we just sleep stream? Should we sleep stream after this? Hold up. Honestly, I love streaming. Streaming is so much fun. You can meet so many people streaming, and anybody could show up. And I love that. I love the fact that like no matter what you're doing, like anyone can have a window into whatever it is and just ask curious questions. I don't like when people interrupt the workflow, as in like when I'm at work in my like little cubicle. I don't like when people stop by and they're like, "Hey, how's it going?" I don't like that. But if someone were to come by and they'd be like, "Oh, that's really cool. What is that?" and they were like curious, I'd probably feel a lot better about it. It's just most people don't do that. Most people they always want to ask you like how you're doing. And like I usually don't care about I don't care enough to like form words to it, you know what I mean? And I don't want to lie to people. So they're like, "How are you doing?" And I'm like, "Brother, I just got in. I have no idea." Like I have no idea. Really, that's similar to what's going on here next time. Oh my gosh, no. That's not really. No, not exactly. Because I mean, I could easily just be like, "Oh yes, I'm good, and like move on from it, But like in the real world, I feel like people just like they sort of trap you in that status statement. How are you? I'm good. Oh, that's good. How's your family? Good, I guess. How's yours? I don't have much to say on anything like that. Yeah, no, I'm all good though. I'm all good. Let's see. Sleep, shower, work, eating, sleep, stream. Yes, all the above, except the TOC will have censorship on the TOC stuff. The TOC? Terms of service. TOS. All right. Well, that is it for me tonight. Words and words. Thank you so much for popping in. I appreciate you. You are awesome. I'm so I'm happy to have your viewership, and I appreciate you, and thank you so much for stopping by and saying what's up, showing some love. Sleep well, take care, and see you around. I will see you, and have a wonderful week if I don't, but if I do, I will be blessed to see you. So thank you very much. I'll see you around.